just a simple man working on the land.
Okay, this is going to be my last point. If you guys have stuck with me this long, God bless you. I hope you paused a couple of times, take a bathroom break, get some coffee, grab a beer, something to dinner, something to eat for dinner, whatever it is. Thank you for staying with me. I'm wrapping this up real soon, and I really hope that I was worth your time if you spent this long with me. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna bring up, and I thought of it because of the line of work that I'm in and the things that I see in life. When you work for public services, especially in big city, New York City, the biggest city in America, you see things. We, myself as EMS and police, and even to a degree sometimes firefighters, we are frontline, first-hand operators of some of the ugliest that our society has to offer. And I'm putting it as delicately as I can. When things go really bad, when people turn really ugly, when true faces are shown, when shit gets bad, I'm the kind of guy that shows up to scrape up the pieces and try and help put it back together, and my other colleagues in some other fields. So it leaves a taste in my mouth for the psychology of preparedness and being on, as I'm sure you as the viewer and people who are trying to obtain knowledge and you're watching this are doing it for what generally we consider the right reasons. Staying alive, protecting your interests, protecting your family, trying to get by, trying to stay alive, trying to not be a victim. These are the elements that people go for in being prepared. But with that, for every one of us, for every person, and then this is just I think, I don't know this, I just think this, that for every person out there who's gonna spend this much time, if you're spending all this time just watching this video to find out information on preparing for something, I gotta think that there's probably 20 or 30 people out there that are completely oblivious to this whole world of being prepared. So, when the end of days comes, when the shit hits the fan, when all hell breaks loose and martial law and there's no election and everything is just gone to hell, think of the numbers of people who are on your side and are willing to and are in a positive mindset of not being a victim, survivability, taking care of themselves, looking out for others, versus all the other people. Well, if in my belief, let's say I'm right for sake of argument, and it's like 30 to 1. For every one of us, there's 30 people that are in your way, that are against you, that are going to treat you like a victim. And you need to figure out now, before it happens, what kind of person you are capable of being and what lengths you are willing to go to protect your values. A lot of people have values in their everyday lives that are whatever you want to call it. They're appropriate. They're, if you're a very religious person, they're righteous, whatever they are. That I believe will not stand when push comes to shove. And you need to decide, how ugly are you willing to be okay. I can't tell you what to do. Just points to think about. Let's just in general, violence. We all know what happens: rioting, looting, stealing, theft. Dishonesty, deception. People just trying to get what they need, and the commonalities of human decency fall by the wayside. Some of them so horrendously that people just don't care. Some of them maybe a little less so of like, I wish I didn't have to, but it's you or me. You got to decide where you stand on that, and especially in violent situations. And there's a big difference between violence as an aggression or an offensive posture and violence as a defensive, means. It's one thing to say like, look, I work in public health care. I've spent my entire adult life and adult career in the vein of saving lives and helping people and preventing death, and that's what I do. But as sure as I'm sitting here, if you threaten me, I have no problem ending your life. That's me. Every single person needs to at least think this through and know where their lines are. I have no problem if you threaten my life. If if I if I believe my life is in danger, I will not think twice about it. And I've seen enough blood and guts and gore and crime and horrible, horrible, horrible dregs and disgustingness of humanity. To a degree, I'm not comparing myself. Please don't, because I have much more respect for soldiers who have been in battle, and I'm not making a comparison that it's anything to the same. But for stay-at-home mom, housewife in suburban USA, first world problems, who the most blood and guts or gore they're going to get is primetime TV in the at night, versus the shit that I've seen and been through. I know what my capabilities are. I know where I stand, and I know what my values are. I'm never going to be aggressive, but I know where I'll draw the line at doing what I need to do for me and how it affects other people. You got to think it through. You got to spend time. It's ugly stuff. You got to kind of dig deep down inside, but it's ugly stuff. What do you value the most? And blood and guts and gore and all the nasty stuff that you're gonna see when society fails. You gotta find you can't be prepared for that. The only way to get prepared for that is to experience it, and you can't just like go to a school to experience that. Um, but you can be mentally prepared and think about it, and try and put yourself in situations. What happens if you've seen fictional accounts of it, but fiction is based in reality a lot of times. And what happens if there's a major natural? I mean, Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, a number of years ago. I didn't go, but I had some friends who in emergency care who went down to help out and spent a number of weeks there. Um, and these are people who are seasoned, who've seen death and dismemberment and the bad stuff in society, and it's amazing how moved they were by the I guess atrocities, how bad things were, between people socially and psychologically and things like that, between people, survivors, and how bad things got just patrolling streets and just watching bodies float by. If you're in a survival situation and you're trying to get out of the community that you live in because it's been devastated by a natural disaster, we're not even talking about crime and violence and people being nasty, just natural disasters. People die in natural disasters all the time. How is it going to affect you when your mode of travel takes you through or past rotting, decaying corpses and bodies and people that you may know, or like, hey, I recognize her from the corner. I just saw her at the corner store last week, and now she's floating down the street. If you have a family and you have small children, how are you going to prepare them for that? How are you going to prepare them for for the horrible things that they're going to see when disaster strikes. And it's one thing when it's a natural disaster. It's very easy to at least reconcile in your mind. Well, it's a natural disaster. It gets even worse when it's human disaster, when it's people turning on each other, when it's violence, gun violence, people murdering each other and attacking. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You got to know your breaking point. You got to know what you're capable of. You got to know if you can push yourself past what you think your breaking point is, because it might mean the difference between you functioning and not functioning. And things that you right now in as a normal functioning member, productive member of society would never consider, because they're either illegal, immoral, against your religious beliefs, whatever they may be, are things that you, at minimum, may have to consider doing in another situation. And would you be able to do that if the situation were different? If law and order broke down, would you be willing to do things that right now, in everyday society, are considered illegal or against the law? Would you be willing to do those things if it meant your survival, if there was a partial or complete breakdown of law and order? Think about it. Seriously, think about it. Listen, guys, you've been with me for a long time. Pretty much wrapping this up now. I guess, just some closing thoughts. As you can see, I mean, this is just me rambling about some things that I've been thinking about. Being prepared, being a prepper, getting into this, whether you want to consider it a lifestyle or it's just you don't want it to be a lifestyle, but it's just some things you're considering. You think it would, it's just in your best interest. Whatever your level of commitment is to this world, it's not easy. It takes some work, especially to do it right. You don't have to be like a prepper geek to get into it, which I have, which I've become. I'll admit it, I've kind of become that. But it takes a little bit of work. It takes some time. Just absorb all that you can. It will only serve your purposes and make things better for you. Um, and uh, and I'll be the first one to say it. Don't, my opinion, don't take any one person's word as gospel for anything, especially in the world of prepping. And that, me, I'm not a professional in this world at all. I'm just sharing with you some things that I've learned and things that I've thought about, and I hope it at least provokes you to think about them for what it means to you. That's all I'm trying to do here. Um, uh, I think that even holds true when it comes to professional sources. Um, I look at things like Ready.gov, FEMA's preparedness site, and New York State's preparedness site, New York City's OEM sites, and these sites that are set up for the general population and community, and they're okay for what they're geared for. Um, but I find fault in some of those things too. They all, I mean, whether you believe it or not, and how much of a cynic you are about the political system in America. I'm not starting that. Um, but everything has a bias to it, and you will not always be told what the bias is. It will not always be obvious what the bias is and whose purposes they serve. Um, Whether, and it doesn't matter where the sources come from, whether they're economical, business, political, um, government, whatever it is, you might not always know. Um, Everybody has a bias. Everybody has a reason for saying what they say. It's very, 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 very rare to find evaluations, whether it's a review of a product, whether it's um, learning a skill, whether it's a tactic, whether it's a how-to. In this day and age of information and ingenuity and how smart people are as a whole, there is no one word on anything. You got to spend the time and search it out and compare and see what makes sense and what works for you. Because you can pick an object, you can pick a common prepper object out there, that a lot of people know and a lot of people have, and you can do a search for reviews on it. And every time you look for any of these objects, you'll always find this thing's a piece of garbage, it's crap, it doesn't work, to this is the greatest whatever it is ever made. I had been looking at blades, and I found a blade, and a friend of mine who's big into blades saw it, and he sent me this link. He's like, "Oh, this blade looks really cool. It's I don't even remember what it is. I don't want to trash him, because I thought it was it's a pretty well known company, and thought it was really well made. And a lot of people review knives, and they look at them and they show them and they go, oh, look at this feature and look at that feature and it's this, and here are the statistics on it. And then there's ones that are better, where you look at people and they're like, I'm gonna go out and use this, and they put a camera out in the corner of their yard and they take a knife and they go hack on wood and they do stuff with it. And I watched one, and this thing got rave reviews all over the place. Everybody said, oh, this is the greatest knife, greatest knife, greatest knife, greatest knife. This dude got his knife in the mail, opened it up, turned on his camera, went in the backyard, and within 5 minutes of using it the way it was designed to be used, in 5 minutes, it broke in half. Take everything with a grain of salt, people. I'm not just talking about blades, I'm talking about concepts, I'm talking about information, just pure information. I'm talking about devices and objects and kit and crap that you can pack. I'm a pack rat. I'm not a pack rat. It's not junk, but I like stuff. I like stuff I can hold in my hands. I like objects. I like things. So I have a lot of things, but you got to spend the time to get the right things. Guys, I really hope that if you've been with me to this point, that this has been helpful to you in some regard. And I hope you leave feedback for me, because I'm sure there's a lot of missing, and I would love to start discussions with people. And this is going to spawn more videos and more conversations and more concepts, and I'll start showing off more, start showing off my kit and what I come up with and how it applies to the concepts that I've talked about here, and the philosophies that I'm starting to adopt and come up with and intertwine, because they all are intertwined. There is, as you can see, I don't have any one philosophy, just a lot of things that I kind of put together that work for my plans. So I am the Urban Gotham Prepper. Thank you for staying with me this long and spending this much time with me. I really hope it's been worth your while. I hope you subscribe, and I will start working on trying to give you more content and more stuff that's worth your time. Please leave a comment, and be safe. Learn all you can, and best of luck to you out there.